What's up, fellow humans? Welcome to Bits and Pieces, a show where this old lady talks about things that interest me, like feelings, and thoughts, perspective, current events. I also talk about how I survive being a human in the world with other humans. It's not easy. What's up, fellow humans, and welcome to the very first episode of Bits and Pieces, a show where I just blabber on about things that interest me and thoughts that I have and perspective, and essentially just share my life's experience and what I've learned over these 53 years. I know I look fabulous for my age, don't I? Thank you for noticing. So very first episode number 1, what are we going to talk about? In this episode, I want to talk about grief. Let's start off there. Why not? First episode up. Let's chat about grief. Because it's something that all of us will experience. I've experienced a lot of it. When I'm talking about grief, in this particular instance, I'm really referring to grief and its relationship to loss or death. Something else that I've experienced a lot of in my life. I've lost a lot of people in my life. I've lost a mother to cancer that took a very, 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 very long time. I've lost friends to taking their own lives, drug overdoses, drug addiction, alcoholism. As mentioned, I've had a big life. I've had many lives. Sometimes I think about it, I'm like, what? How many are there? I feel like I've lived like 20 lifetimes in one lifetime. I've also come to embrace that that's actually not a bad thing. So checking my post-its, I've also lost a lot of animals. And believe it or not, there's a few people that I've lost that I would trade in to get some of those dogs back. I love dogs. Jackson. Okay, back to the post-its. Grief, death, loss. There's a bunch of things I want to cover in this episode. One of the things I want to make mention of is that there's a big pie when we're talking about grief and death and loss. No, I'm not a doctor. No, I don't have any education, but life education. Yeah, that's the one that's worked out the best for me, although I have read a lot of books. That aside, let's stay on track. That's why the Post-its are there. Pies, right? There's a huge pie of grief, depending on who you lose, how you lose them, what and how much they're involved in your everyday existence. So it's different every time you lose somebody or something. But we'll stay on the track of losing somebody. Every time you lose somebody, it's different. And grief and the process of grief is different for everybody. It's a very personal relationship, and it's a very personal. I want to say journey, and then there's, we all have a lot of different personalities. I know I do. And I am relentlessly having multiple conversations in my head at the same time. They're all very different. They all have very different opinions about this, that, and the other. And they're all, convinced they're on the right side of knowledge. And funnily enough, it's a tool that I've had my entire life, and it's been a burden and a blessing. But to be able to kind of argue with your own perspective as often as possible, to see if what the story you're selling yourself is actually the truth, is actually a very handy tool. But I've gotten off track. Not really, because I'm trying to explain that in the process of dealing with emotions, especially in times of trauma or things like grief and loss, there's going to be a lot of voices in your head, the chatter. I call them the round table, right? All my folks, all my different perspectives They all live in this house, and they all have their own rooms down the hallway. And at the very end of the hallway, there's the meeting room where everyone kind of gets together and chats about stuff relentlessly. I've learned to embrace that part of myself and get to know each section of personality very well, and to understand where they're all coming from so that I can better grade my paper. Back to grief. So there's going to be a lot of things that are being said in your head whilst you're, going through this process of loss. And that's the tricky part, trying to find who stands at the forefront. And everybody suffers. When somebody dies, when I lost my mother, not only did I suffer, but those that are around the suffering also suffer. It's a domino effect. It's contagious. Any emotion is contagious, including pain. It's not easy to be around people that are in pain, especially if it's deep, deep, deep pain. Mourning time. The point of that is to say that when I've lost anyone, and losing anyone is different, right? If you lose a mother, it's different to losing a friend, or if they die through illness is different to them taking their own life or dying because of, self-punishment or self-induced kind of tragedy. Or if it's a violent tragedy, because I've had that also. But it's all different, right? And really, I've found that what I'm mourning is not necessarily the loss of them, but the loss of time. More time. I want more time, right? You go back and forth and rewind. Like, what could I have said? What should I have said? Did I spend enough time? I think constantly about why didn't I take my dog to the park more often and get off my computer. I've called friends and haven't heard back from them. So just, kind of let it go, only to realize that they were in trouble, and have thought about that relentlessly. Why didn't I call again? Why didn't I call more? Why didn't I demand this or demand that, right? So talking about mourning time is really what I've found to be the most difficult part. And difficult part, let's talk about difficulties and depression and feelings and stuff. And there's a pie to that, I think. And I think there's a pie to every emotion. And I really just use pie as like a visual representation because I'm a visual person and that works best for me. So a pie of grief, depending on who they are, how they affected your life, how much they're in your life, how they died, how they passed, right? Because I want to really be specific to grief within the context of death. So I want to talk about that pie, and I want to talk about navigating time also. What was the inspo for this? Well, I've thought about death a lot in my life just because I've experienced people dying and because of my own thoughts about death personally and being exhausted with life to the point of just not wanting to do it anymore. Period. Right? I'm going to read some stuff. What was the inspo? So I watch a lot of crime shows, like a lot. I go to sleep to them sometimes because I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated by human condition. I'm fascinated by process and how, we figure things out and why we do things and why we say things and what led up to these moments. It's relentless. The human condition and human behavior is an obsession of mine to understand it because it helps me understand myself. And sometimes when I see behavior in others, I can recognize that that's probably what I looked like to those watching me without any information about me. So I was watching a crime show, yet another crime show, and I'm just going to read this because it's easier to kind of tell you what's going on. It says, I watch a lot of crime. I watch a lot of shows about crime because it informs me about human behavior, as I mentioned, right? At a forensic level. The unspoken communication when your body tells on you. We can talk about that in a different episode. But while I was watching one of these shows, a woman was being interviewed about the violent loss of her child. Horrible, horrible situation. And the thing that she said was, I would give anything to trade places with her. And what I wrote after I watched this was, I immediately said, no, you wouldn't. Like right out the gate, no, you wouldn't. You would not want to trade places with her. Because all you're doing is gifting your pain to her, right? Death, everybody suffers through death, as I mentioned. Wanting to trade places with somebody or saying, you know, I would want to take on what she experienced for her so she didn't have to suffer. But she would still have to suffer the loss of you, is the thing. Death is not something you can sign out of. It's going to be part of your existence and your inevitable ending. This little machine you live in doesn't last forever, fortunately and unfortunately. But so I immediately said, no, you wouldn't, right? Because all that means is you would be free and your suffering here would then be hers. You're just trading places. You're just trading one hurt for the other hurt. The suffering doesn't end by giving your life for theirs. Nobody wins. Your pain is just gifted to the other. But this is something that we're taught to think and feel and say because it's a way of being socially acceptable in hurt, right? We're taught to say these things and we just kind of inevitably say that, like, oh, I would trade places with them or I would give my life for theirs and so on and so forth. It's really a gesture because if you think about that in actual practicality, that's not something you want to do. You don't want to transfer pain of any kind to anybody else as much as possible. I write, you wouldn't want to give the pain you are feeling to her. You would not want to switch places because the pain you feel would be felt by them, right? Rather than switch places with them, you would give anything for it not to have happened at all. You would give anything to rewind and do it again. Pay more attention to every single moment. Breathe into their existence and feel it over and over again. But you can't, and it's paralyzing. And that goes back to my point about mourning time. We don't mourn people. We mourn time, the loss of it, not being able to rewind and do things over again. And that's a tricky one to battle with, right? So that was the inspo. Let's talk about some of the topics I want to cover. I want to talk about closure. Well, yeah. I'm just going to run off the list of things that I'm going to cover. I want to talk about closure. I want to talk about suffering. I want to talk about letting go. Time stopping. A pause on your life. Everything stops. I want to talk about honoring life. I want to talk about moving forward. I want to talk about when people say, get over it. It's a burner for me. And I want to talk about weaving joy into times of devastation and what's worked for me. You know, and it's been a long practice. I've had to do a lot of things and still do. That's life. So let's get into it. First up on the docket is closure. This is a big word for me. I have a lot of big words, but this is one of them. Closure. I don't think there's any such thing, and I've thought about this a lot, over and over and over again. I don't think there's any such thing. And I've tried, to be honest with you. This whole thing of hearing people saying, you need closure, you need to close this chapter. This part of your life is closed. When I was a kid and even into adulthood, I would feel like a failure because I could never seem to close anything. It would sit in my head and sit in my heart, and I would revisit it like an old friend and hang out, and it made me very unhappy to think that, why couldn't I just get over it? Why couldn't I just, forget about it? Close the chapter, because I don't think it's possible. And I don't think it's something that you should strive for, to close a chapter. How do you close a chapter? You can't just all of a sudden say, oh, this is fine. You know what? I'm just going to forget this ever happened. I'm just going to, upload this and cut out the parts that I don't feel good about. It doesn't work like that. It's there. At least it is for me. Right? I can't just decide that I'm not going to have a memory about something or a feeling about something. The only thing I can do is get distance. Right? Closure is not something I think you should seek. I think you should seek perspective and understanding, and it's not what you want. Closure isn't what you want. You want to just move through it. You want to stop thinking about it obsessively. You want it to stop ruling your every waking breath. You just want to move through it and put it where it belongs, which is, behind what's happening right now. Easier said than done. As mentioned, it's a practice. Everything's a practice, I tell you. But it can be fun when you start learning, tools and tricks on how to do that. But the point is, closure doesn't, to me, as far as I'm concerned, closure doesn't exist. That's yet another made-up thing that we've designed in our language, like a coffee shop slogan, to say something to somebody when you don't know what else to say, right? If people don't know how to really just speak honestly about how they feel, or perhaps they've never experienced death or loss yet, because it's just part of living. And they really just don't know what to say. A lot of people are just very uncomfortable, and they're not like me, who could just talk about feelings, and am curious, genuinely curious, because people don't want to even ask questions about things, because there's yet another social thing that we've been taught where if, just be like, just let them be, do their thing and all that sort of stuff. We don't investigate. You can ask people how they're doing without being a pain in the rump. So closure. Yeah, I don't think there's any such thing, and I don't think it's something you want to be looking to do, because it's impossible. You're just going to make yourself crazy thinking, you know what, I can just forget about this. No, you want to get distance, you want to get clarity, you want to get perspective, and you want to gain experience from these things in life. Everything it means something, You're supposed to, as a human, have experiences, and then have a chat to yourself and say, what was that all about? What happened there? And really recognize it. Your processing is very specific, and it's happening all the time. It's called your subconscious. It's your machine. It just happens the way it is. So closure. There's no such thing. You want to try to gain distance, clarity, and perspective, and you want to find a way to live with your personal history. 53. It's taken a minute, but you can. You just gotta start having a relationship with yourself. Because really, what you want to do is put it behind you. Imagine your computer, yourself as a computer, and your desktop. You need to clean up your desktop, right? On your desktop, there's all these files. And in all those files are other files and other files and sub-files. And some of those things you've dragged and dropped documents into just because, it was close. And some of those files need to go straight to the trash, and you need to empty your trash. That's all I'm saying. So closure. My comment on that to you is I would rid yourself of that word closure because it's impossible. And it doesn't prosper a full emotional experience as a human being. You don't learn much by saying, I'm just going to forget about that. I'm just going to, pretend that didn't happen. Or I'm just going to not think about that. You can't. And if you can, let me know how you do it so we can have a chat about that. So that's closure. So next up is suffering, right? It just comes with grief. And suffering is inevitable. If you want to tell yourself you're going to live a life without suffering, you're firstly lying to yourself. And secondly, you're not really doing your life much justice. Because a life without suffering is like a diet without any veggies. It's not really good for you. Because you don't gain perspective. It's like you don't really know how delicious food is until you're starving. And go to the grocery store and buy all the things you shouldn't. All right, back to the notes. But the point is, suffering is inevitable. It's part of life, and it's part of the human experience if you're doing it right. You can't avoid it. It's impossible. And you shouldn't try, as far as I'm concerned. Well, you don't want to live a life of suffering, that's for sure. Which is to my point that you can feel your feelings. You want to feel your feelings, and you should feel your feelings. But you don't want to pack a bag and move in, pull the couch out in the basement and just start eating chips. You don't want to do that. You can visit and say hi, have dinner,
Try the cheese.
Stay a while. But you can't live there. That's the thing. You can, but it's not that fun. I've tried it.
How long are you staying?
Trust me, I've tried it. I've tried years where I'm just sad and I'm suffering. And there was a part of me that romanticized that. There was a part of me that thought I was way more interesting than all the other folks that weren't suffering. Because I'd convinced myself that there were people that weren't suffering, which is not true. Everybody just does it in their own way. Some are louder than others. But I did, when I was younger, really kind of hold on to that as a badge of honor. My life and the things that I'd experienced and all these feelings and moments that I'd had that I only saw in movies, and that shut down dinner conversations real quick. Ask me how I am. Ask me where I'm from. I dare you. So yeah, suffering. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard to the skin you're in. And it's not a healthy life with no suffering, because then you have no perspective. If you don't know what it is to hurt, then you can't possibly understand or have a relationship to your own behavior and the effects of that behavior on other people. If you don't know what it feels like to hurt, then you really don't have a close-up personal idea of what others feel when they say, you have hurt me. Yeah. Don't lie to yourself. That's the thing. Have a chat to yourself. Am I hurt? Why am I hurt? Sounds exhausting, but once you start doing these things every day, it just becomes kind of your internal processing. It's a habit, like any other habit, emotional habits. Be your own boss. Be the mother of the pack. That's this wig. She's the mother of the pack. She's the one with the clipboard that walks down the hallway and kicks the doors in and makes sure the kids are brushing their teeth and going to bed on time. And feeding those when they're starving. So they're not just mouthing off in the background and make their way somehow from way back here out my face into the real world with other people. That took a long time. So, yeah, avoid suffering as much as possible. You can't avoid suffering. That's impossible. But like I said, you don't want to find a place where you just hang out there for years and years and years. And if you do, then you're having a conversation with yourself, honestly saying, we're doing this a lot. What's happening? Is there any way we can have a different experience today? Right? Because suffering inherently is a decision. And when I say that, people are going to say, no, it's a chemical thing. Absolutely. And your chemistry is built off your thoughts, right? Thoughts become things. When you think a certain thing, if you think about things and you're sad about things and you relentlessly go over and over something that's upset you, like I have a problem with rereading emails over and over and over and over and again, especially if I feel like someone's been rude to me and I've written an email in response and I feel pretty proud about it. It's insanity. But those little metadata things, those little metadata behavior things that you do, you have to reel those in, because that the layers of all those things happening at once is what gets you. It gets you, and that's how you lose yourself. So suffering is a decision, because you have to learn how to control your chemistry. And that's not to say that some people are on medication. I've tried those too. I've done all the doctors, all the degrees. Boy, were they smart. We'll talk about that in another episode. But this is in no way, commentary on people that are suffering and need medication and things like that. But that's a completely different subject, and we can talk about that another time. But suffering, like any other feeling, is a decision. How you end up at that decision, we'll talk about that with tools and tricks, and how you can, trick yourself into starting to produce different internal workings. Surrender. Oof. That's really what it comes down to. And these words, there's one of me that you may have met that's just fed up with the coffee shop slogans, and I can't stand it. There's a part of me that can't stand it. It sends me, like, this is your personal journey, and you have to close this chapter, and put the past in the past. Some of it sends me, but some of it really is true. It's really just the practical application of that, and whether or not you're walking the walk. And is it walking the walk? Walking the talk? Talking the walk? Walking the walk. You know what I mean. So I want to read you what I wrote about surrender. What we should strive for is surrender to the past being the past, to movement, to change. These are big ones. And to the passage of time. Understanding that it is real. Tick, 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 tick. It's happening. It doesn't hang out and wait for you to figure stuff out. It'll hold your hand along the way, but you got to participate, right? It's a collab. The passage of time. Dedicate ourselves to investigating ourselves. Be your best friend. And be, the mother of the pack. You have to have a relationship with yourself. So many people, they have relationships with lovers and friends and family and this, that, and the other, and they completely forget about to sit down and have a conversation, a real conversation about what happened today. How do we feel? What's going on? And have a relationship with yourself. For the love of everything holy, please get to know who the heck you are. Respecting time. Dedicate ourselves to investigating ourselves and this incredible machine you reside in. This thing is wildcats. If you don't believe in aliens or UFOs or the supernatural and stuff, I would like to talk to you about that, because I do. But that being said, this thing that you live in is crazy cool. And it can also be your worst enemy if you decide to not participate with it and shake hands and say, all right, let's get to know one another here so we can figure some stuff out. It's really the only way that it's ever worked for me. I've read books, I've looked at religion, all kinds of religion, philosophies, Eastern, Western. I also, think about anatomy and psychology, quantum physics, parallel universes, manifestation, all that stuff. There's so many different ways to look at it. But really what I've discovered is the fundamental thing is mastering this little machine, right? Like a computer and your files, or like a car. If you don't put oil in your car, it's not going to last very long. What's next? Yeah, and respecting time, which we've talked about. Because with time, new memories are built and begin to take the forefront. Layers. Emotional layers and, winter layers. I love layers. I also like lists and piles. Another show. Layers, right? The pain, the memories, the moments fall behind the next moment and the next layer, layer after layer, like an onion. The aching moves a little further away and nothing ever leaves you. At least it doesn't for me. It only finds a place to rest beside all the other moments you will be affected by in your life. Priorities. Emotional priorities change all the time, whether you like it or not. You can hang out, even if you hang out in one emotion for 10 years, which I've done. Oh, I've done it. Inevitably, it changes. You just wake up and go, oh, that was great. Well, there goes 10 years. Tick, tock, tick, tock. So that's suffering and surrender. And when I talk about tools, we'll talk about how I deal with those things and how I can perhaps share some secret sauce with you so you can start cooking up a pot. All right. So up next on the post-it podium is letting go. Another one. These are all things that people say. They don't bother me so much anymore. They bother me now for other people. But when I was young, these things would really tick me off. Really tick me off. Yeah, letting go. I call it filing accordingly. Because like closure, like get over it, ignore it. There's no such thing. To me, there's no letting go. There's no closure. Certainly, no, there's just none of that. For me, it's about understanding, moving through perspective, and then hopefully getting some little emotional nuggets out of that experience so that I don't find myself in the same predicament in the same way. Again, so I call it organizing your files, not letting go, right? You got to file accordingly. Let me read this. You can't organize your thoughts if you don't know where they belong. It's so true. Is what I'm thinking fantasy? Is what I'm thinking reality? Because really anything you agree to is a reality as far as I'm concerned. But is what I'm thinking a fantasy? Something that I'm reliving, telling myself, rewinding a do-over? Is it a reality or something that's happening that I'm not willing to listen to? And is it the present or is it the past, right? Your desktop, your folders. Where is this situation in your hard drive? Where does it live? Where does it go? Because obviously you can't have everything, on the desktop because we know what that ends up being. Madness. So where does this stuff go? How are you organizing your files? How are you letting go? You're not letting go of anything. You're just putting it where it belongs, right? And how do you know where these things go if you don't really know where they're coming from? Am I feeling this way right now because of what's happening right now? Or does this moment remind me of something way back when, which has stirred up feelings about then that I'm now bringing right into right here, right now? Is that what's happening? And where does it live? Is it past? Is it present? Where is it? If it's past, it needs to go in the folder way back, in the subfolders and not live on your desktop. Not something that you see every time you open up yourself to the world of your machine, your computer. Something that you're not constantly reminded of. Clear up that mess and put it where it belongs. File accordingly. Yeah, it's like you don't keep your cooking utensils in the bedroom. That's just silly. You keep your tools and what you need to be happy and deal with the way that you process information and emotions and things right at the forefront, right in your hip pocket. Quick draw McGraw. Filing accordingly. Not letting go, filing accordingly. Because I love organization. Oh, I love it, I love it, I love it. I would say organization is really the key to freedom for me with a brain like mine, right? External organization, internal organization, easy access. Because if I have to sit around and think about something for too long or go in and out and around about, I get bored. I get irritated. And then I get grumpy and I don't like it. So what I try to do is make sure that all my insides are kind of organized. I'm always having a conversation with myself. Big picture, mama bear. Like, okay, how's everybody doing today? And do we need to talk about anything so that we can put that in the file and take it off the desktop? Priorities, right? And you keep your tools close by. Visit them. Practice. It's a practice. Once you start doing these things and becoming your own personal emotional police person, keeping notes, and not in a judgmental way, in a maternal or paternal or any way that you would consider caring, and a place of observation and not emotion, not reaction. You can have emotions, but reaction to those emotions that's the nugget. That's the chicken nugget. Or vegan nugget, depending. So not letting go, just not moving in. That's the thing. Right? We don't move in to these places. Or if you do move in, you sign a lease and listen, I'm here for 6 months and then we're out of here. Okay. Then we're doing something else. Then we're going on to the next moment in our lives. Because that's what happens. Remember, tick, tock, it's running out. Okay. The reason people struggle with moving through something is because they just don't do it. Well, ain't that the truth? They don't. I know this because I've done that. You just don't move through it. You go back to that whole thing we were talking about earlier, which is just, don't worry about it. Close that chapter. Don't think about it anymore. No, think about it. Think about it. But think about it honestly, from a place of perspective. Everybody gets a say in my head. They all get a say. It's just that some of what some people say I'm not really going to pay much attention to because they're behaving like a 6-year-old. Yeah. Tricks, right? Yeah, because they just don't do it. Because people just, instead of having a real honest sit down with themselves, and you don't have to do these sit down with yourselves. You can just mosey on through your humanhood and not really know what the heck's going on the inside. That's fine. You won't be alone. You probably won't be very happy either, but who am I to tell you what happiness looks like? Just a woman in a wig. Okay, where were we? Yeah, because they just don't do it. And that's why people don't move through it. They don't talk to each other about it. Friends just say, let them have their space. They don't have a sit down at the dinner and say, is everybody miserable? Because I'm pretty miserable. Right? And they don't move through it. They just kind of put it on the back burner and think that, this is just another thing that'll just go away. It doesn't. It doesn't for me. I have to look at it. I have to say hi. I have to sit down, grab a cup of tea and have a chat. And figure stuff out so that I can wake up tomorrow and not be bummed out. Not be bummed out. That's the key. Don't be bummed out. Or be bummed out. But just, we don't have to revisit it. Yeah, you're not letting go. You're just organizing your desktop. So what I want to talk about next is time stopping, right? Depression, tragedy. When tragedy or anything monumental happens emotionally, for me, time kind of stops. It doesn't just kind of stop, it just flat out stops. And I just go in to my head and do a lot of rewinding, right? For me, because emotional trauma for me is even worse than physical trauma. And I've had both, my fair share. But emotional stuff is the stuff that sticks with me. It's the stuff that hangs out and is the most difficult to talk my way through. And sometimes to gain perspective on, because one of my personalities, I guess, whatever you want to call it, but one of the parts of me that has a very personal affiliation with whatever that memory is takes the forefront. So I have to manage that on the inside and make sure that I'm staying right here, right now. That's key for me. And it's just shock. It's essentially you going into shock. If you've ever had anything, if you can remember any experience in your life where you can, when you're explaining it, you saying, and everything just slowed down.
It was like as if it was happening in slow motion.
That's just shock. And it's focus. In times of trauma or violence, for example, people can say, time kind of stopped, and they start getting gaps in their memory because your focus is so forensic in those moments, and what it's paying attention to is either surviving or figuring out a way to readjust and move through what's happening. But it's shock. Time doesn't slow down. You just ramp up your focus.
Time is always happening. If you focus hard enough, time can always greet you
At the same pace as it does when you're in insane shock. Time stopping. The last thing I remember, the last thing I did, I talked about this briefly, but just revisiting that and trying to rewind and think through what would have happened had you done something different. I've done that a lot for a lot of different situations where I'll just keep going back over and over and over it again. And even though the ending is inevitable, the death or something tragic has happened, that's not going to change. No amount of thinking it through is going to change that, because it's happened. It's there. But it doesn't stop me thinking it through. It doesn't stop me from obsessively going over it and over it and over it again and saying, what if I changed this puzzle piece? Then what would have happened? All right, let's rewind and go back to the beginning. What if I changed this puzzle piece? Then what would have happened? It's a natural thing to do, I think, at least it is for me, but it's something you got to put a hold on. You got to reel that stuff in, because it's exponential. It goes on forever and ever and ever. You can relentlessly change the puzzle pieces and come up with an ending, but even that ending is a guess, because it didn't happen. And real life, you can only control what's going on with you, and then all the other variables are all the other variables. So rewinding, going over and over and over what you would have done, what you could have done, or how it should have, or what it meant, it's useless. It's a normal behavior, I think, but it's just useless. I find it useless. It's just exhausting when you're already exhausted because you're suffering emotionally and you're in pain. And the more you just rewind and try to rethink it through and do it over again, it's just wasted time, and it doesn't serve you any purpose. It certainly doesn't make you feel any better about it. If anything, it just makes you judge yourself more and start deciding that if you did, in fact, change that puzzle piece, then everything would have been fine, right? Because the world is revolving around me and just accommodates my actions. So if I'd just done this, then everything would have been fine. We would have been fine. Nobody would have died. Nobody would have been sad. That's not always the case. It's just more chatter in your head that you need to bring mama in. Overplaying memories, a do-over. You don't get any do-overs as much as you want them. I think that's one of my biggest things in life the older I get is trying to have as little regret as possible. Trying not to have those things where I have a conversation with myself where I'm like, gosh, why didn't I just, if only I just, why couldn't I just, all that stuff. You can't get a do-over. And thinking about it is just guesswork anyway. So it's a waste of your time. It's a waste of emotional focus. It's a waste of energy. And it's punishing yourself for no reason. Well, for reasons, because you're a human being, and that's what we do. We kick the crap out of ourselves every now and then, or often, depending. So you can't and won't get a do-over. Just hold on to that for a minute, and that's okay. Because imagine if you did, you'd still be 6, getting that cupcake. Because you'd just do it over again, and Mom would give you exactly what you wanted. So you'd still be 6, just eating cupcakes. You would never have moved on forward. How do you stop this incessant behavior, the chatter within? And this is something that I try to master as much as possible. And it's a lifelong process for me. I've gotten much better at it because I've been doing it for so long. And I've learned my toolbox, what works for me. And I dig into that toolbox all the time. And I'll share more about the things that I do that help me stop with that incessant chit-chat behind the eyes. Do you hear the airplane? Maybe you don't. Welcome to Brooklyn, New York City. Something to remember to say, just a quick trick. I am here now. I'm here right now. You are there right now. I mean, it's happening. I get goosebumps because it's an overwhelming responsibility at times. But you are here now. Holding on to the last moments is not profitable. And I'm going to read you what I wrote in figuring out how to talk to you folks about all this stuff. The last thing I remember, time stands still, grief effects leading to depression. The last moment. Staying here is to disrespect the person who has passed, to focus on the last time, the last moment, the last clothes, the last things said, done, unsaid, undone. To turn memories into the most painful moments is to say you had no love of the moments that were special. What made that person so influential in your life, and to live in their last moments is to create a whole new them. It says the end is all that's valuable to remember. I mean, just think about that for a second, right? It really is. Like if all you hold on to is their last moments and the most pain, and you just create a whole new human being, because that's not the entirety of anyone's life. You're going to go too. We all do. That's just the way it goes. But holding on to those last moments is really a disrespect of an entire life and relationship that you've had. But again, it's a normal biological thing to do, because that's what we do. We ache. Boy, can we ache. What made that person so influential in your life? And moving to joy is somehow disrespecting the dramatic loss. Yeah. And moving to joy is somehow disrespecting how dramatic the loss is to your life, right? It's not. The contrary, to stay in the pain, in the struggle, and the hurt is to disregard a life had and the life you still own. It's an injustice to forego the now, to live in the pain of then. Because what you are feeling now are the bricks building emotional homes you will be living in until your thinkings and feelings redirect. If you dishonor how valuable now is, and you leave here and now to be in yesterday, why should you get another 10 minutes? This was something that I realized a while ago. I mean, it's not like polite, but it's true, right? If I'm just living in my stuff, and even if it's rightfully so, but I'm hanging out there, right? If I'm just living there, and all I'm doing is revisiting yesterday and what happened and what they said and what I did and what they did and blah blah blah. Why should I get another 10 minutes of life? Because I'm giving you're being given time here now, and you're hanging out then in a time that you can do nothing about. You can't change it. It's happened. All you can do is harvest that as yet another life experience and have a chat about it, investigate it and figure it out. But if you're living in the pain and the anguish of something, either that's because that's where you've chosen to be, because that's where you need to be right now. You just need to be hurting, and that's okay. Or you've romanticized that place and somehow, like me, made you the most interesting person in the room. I win the hurt medal. You need to understand my hurt. That place. Or you've just put a pause on time and you've honestly lost track, which I've done too. You just all of a sudden come to and say, what in the hell just happened? Where did the last 6 years of my life go? They went in here. Spinning. Right? Spinning. Why should you get another 10 minutes? You don't deserve more of what you are not interested in. As difficult as it is sometimes, we need to sew new clothes underneath our skin and find spaces in between the heartache to be here, now, whatever that means. You don't deserve more of what you're not interested in. I mean, isn't that true? Because people, you deserve to be happy. You deserve this and you deserve that. But do you? What are you doing with what you have? Again, not like the polite, we're not checking off the polite boxes here. No, that's not really what I'm into. I'm into having honest, real conversations with myself about what's really going on, and how I'm participating in that shenanigans. Being honest with yourself. It's the key to everything. And that's the place that you also find that you get to give yourself permission to be in the place that you're at. Because you're not moving in there. You're caring for yourself and you're allowing yourself to have this process of feeling things, especially when it's devastating loss and pain and heartache of losing people or pets and, spirits that have been influential in your life and seen you as you. It's tough to lose them. And even if they haven't seen you, it's tough. Death is also difficult for me because it reminds me that there's a tick-tock, right, behind everything, that at some point my time is coming. And the older I get, the more I get frantic about running out of it. I wake up every day like, what are you doing with your life? What's happening? That sort of thing. I read that. Being happy now or finding moments in between the hurt is not disowning or dishonoring the person and the memories and all that sort of stuff. Quite the contrary, right? As I read. If you're not, here now and celebrating your experience with them and learning and really absorbing that idea of mourning time and that you should be so grateful for every second, and harvest that as much as possible with the rest of the energies and human beings and animals in your life that you experience. Gobbledygook, right? Gobbledygook. Mm-hmm. Another thing that I wanted to talk about with time stopping, and just kind of as a side note of grief, I wrote this as an end thought. Long drawn out deaths with terminal illness and things of that nature can actually lead, because I know when I was a kid and I lost my mom, of course you're a kid and you don't really have all these like social rules about how you're supposed to feel about things, or what it looks like to lose a parent. You just kind of have whatever's going on inside you happening. And I definitively remember thinking that all the adults were kind of crazy. My mother spent a long time in hospital, in and out of hospitals, and she was in psych wards and lots of crazy things. And I was tiny, teeny tiny. I look at 7-year-olds now and see how small they are, and I'm like, whoa, I was really small when that happened. Another trick. Where was I? Talking about long, drawn out death and the grief that's attached to that. For me, especially with my mother, I was just like, in the hospital, I just kept thinking to myself, why are these adults letting her hang it? Why are they just not letting her go? It didn't make any sense to me. It was quite obvious to me as a teeny tiny human that A, she didn't really want to be here anymore. And that B, there was no way that was going to happen. So the drawing out of the hospital and the life support machines and that whole environment and all that to me was very confusing. And then when she did pass, there was a part of me that was relieved because I didn't have to do it anymore. I didn't have to think about it anymore. It didn't have to be a part of my day, because it's anybody that struggled with terminal illness or somebody that's very, very sick. It's every day, all day. You can't clock out. It's just there. And it becomes your life. And it becomes quite normal, and you get quite used to it, which is yet another tricky thing to move past. But not feeling devastated the way that people think that you should be feeling devastated, right? Or the way that society and folks tell you that devastation looks like. Because there's a part of me that was like, finally I can take a breath and start, thinking about something else and feeling something else and experiencing the world without the inevitable death that was just hanging out. So feeling guilty about that is something that I gave up as a kid, because I didn't really get any guilt over it, because it just seems so natural to me. Because as a kid, you don't really have an understanding or a personal relationship with death. You just kind of take things on the chin. So leading to feelings of relief here. That also has nothing to do with how much that you loved this person. It just doesn't. Not to me. The fact that I was relieved, and I was, and I've felt this about other folks that I know have struggled. Friends with drug addiction, as much as I wanted them to stay, I know and I knew that they couldn't or didn't want to or whatever. But they weren't going to hang out, And when they did pass, there was a very big part of me that had a great sense of relief and feeling unshackled by carrying, all these feelings about somebody struggling or dying within my circle. So time stopping. Like I said, I'm going to give some tools and tricks on how to stop the chatter and how to press play again and get up. And you can still be sad. That's the beauty of being a person. You don't really have to close down ship on one part to play with the other. You can all get along. So welcome back. Although you haven't gone anywhere, maybe you have. Maybe you've shut it down, moved on to cat videos, something like that. Fresh cup of coffee. And while I was making my coffee, I was thinking about this show and what I've been blabbering on about. And then I thought I needed to talk about losing somebody that wasn't very nice to you. And when I say not very nice to you, I'm referring to perhaps a parent that was not just not very nice to you, but abusive, perhaps. And the raised eyebrows is not to insinuate that it's anything funny, because it's not. But let's talk about that for a second, because that's an interesting one. Losing, let's say in this example, a parent that's been abusive to you. How do you deal with being happy, like genuinely happy? And I'm just talking about my own feelings about this. Being genuinely thrilled, and also being completely devastated because it's a parent. And what I've discovered is that no matter what they do, for me, no matter what they do, there's a part of you that cannot, or there's a part of me that could not and would not let go of the fact that we're blood related. And it's not that blood is thicker than water, because if you look that saying up, it might not be what you think it's always been.
All aboard!
Breaking news tonight is yet another bombshell hits society right in the history books. Sources say that human beings have taken blood is thicker than water the wrong way. Apparently, this is just another saying folks have mutilated into something it's not.
But it's just more about biology. There's nothing you can do about it. You're connected. DNA, biology, science. Here she comes down the hallway, the doctor. I think you might have met her. But it's science, right? But it's really difficult. It's really difficult to absorb the fact that you are so happy, even happy in a point of feeling vindicated, taking joy in the fact that even if they suffered or they didn't suffer, but just taking joy in that moment. And then on the other side of the coin is this little human that's always been in love, with that parent, because they're your parents and there's nothing you can do about it. There's a part of you that always wants them to be proud of you. There's a part of you that always wants them to love you, or at least think they love you, because that's the trick. Always. There always has been for me. So struggling with that idea of, dealing with both grief and joy at exactly the same time is very uncomfortable. But just understand that it's biology, and of course that's how it feels. Of course you're struggling with that. It's not that you're abnormal, because, these comments like, how could you love somebody that hurt you so badly? Because that's biology. That's the way it works. You just do. Because whatever inside of you has been fed by whatever that person is giving you and has been interpreted as love, even if it's dysfunctional, it's something that has fed you in those moments and brought you even joy, because it's familiarity, right? Familiarity breeds contempt. Is that what they say? You know them. They say a lot of things. Motorbike. But familiarity, if you're familiar with anything, if you're familiar with a parent being cruel to you or hitting you or doing anything to you, if it happens for long periods of time with anything, it just becomes familiar. You get used to it. That's what makes this little machine so extraordinary, because it adapts really quickly, especially in times of survival, either psychological survival or physical survival. But in those moments, boy, you will flip on a dime to try to survive, whatever that means. So just know in the discomfort of feeling those things and struggling with that, you're not crazy. I mean, we're all crazy, hopefully. But crazy in the sense that you have a lot going on often that seem to compete with one another. That's called being a person and a thinking person. And we need more of you in the world to just think about things. But it's not easy, and it's not specific to you. So that try to have that bring a little solace to you that it's just biology, and you're struggling, and you can live in both of those emotions at the same time, and they're both equally valid, and one doesn't cancel out the other, any of that sort of stuff. They can live harmoniously in the same body at the same time, because that's kind of what happens. Don't judge yourself so much for having these opposing thoughts and feelings about stuff and start saying what you have to decide. No, you don't have to decide, but you do have to take an overview of all that chit chat and figure out what makes the most sense and practical application here now for the end result of not being bummed out. Not being bummed out. Essentially, it's your experience arguing with your biology. You're a chemically based meat product. Once you kind of leave your affiliations and your identity or the story that you've sold yourself about who you are and what you like, and you love a good bolognese, but you really don't like avocados, all that stuff, right? Once you leave that alone and you just look at yourself from the biological standpoint of what you are chemically, right, which is essentially tissue and bone and chemistry and a brain and all the rest of it, and it all works in conjunction with the other. Get to know it. So that's really what that is. If you're struggling with how am I supposed to feel, you're supposed to feel exactly that, what you're feeling, which is a bouncy ball moving back and forth between actually feeling quite grateful for their absence and the space so you can find a place to breathe without that being a prevalent part of your life. And also at the same time wishing they were still here and that you could still talk to them, even though they were not that nice to you, to say the least. Yeah, remove your identification, your affiliation, at least for part of you. The mother of the pack, she does that. She oversees the whole bunch. Find that person. And also, one of the things that I learned as I got older with regards to parents being abusive is I really just understood after a long time of living that they're just people. And I'm actually grateful for my life experience because it's been such where I actually don't have a root system, family, something that I could hold on to say, oh, well, this is where I get stuff from, right? No, it was just pretty much little old me figuring it out along the way. So some might say that's a burden, which it can be depending, and it has been. But the flip side of that coin is it's also a blessing because I don't actually have any true affiliations to the loss of a parent being felt in one way or my parents being anything other than just people, because we didn't really have a relationship where one would consider it parental, or, we didn't sit down to dinner and have chats about stuff or anything like that. No, it was more kind of holding your breath until somebody got punched in the mouth. But these are all gifts to me. Here now I can say that. That has to be 20 years ago. Not the same answer. But I just wanted to touch upon that. Because if there's anybody out there that's dealing with that, where they've lost a parent or perhaps a lover that's been abusive to them, and they're struggling with what they're supposed to feel, and you're supposed to feel, in my opinion, exactly that, both sad and wanting to throw a party, all at the same time. Breathe into it. You gotta ride the storm. Next, I'm going to talk about tools. So let's get to the good stuff. Tools. All the things you can do to make it better. And there's so many. And they change depending on where you are in your life and how old you are. And what you're willing to put into it. Because it's not... At the beginning, it's hard work. It's like anything. It's like going to the gym, right? At first, you're like, this is awful. I just want to sleep and eat cheese, watch Judge Judy. But you can't, right? I mean, you can, but you want to get up and you go to the gym. So you start getting up and you start going to the gym. And all of a sudden, you see your body changing and you think, damn it, I am good looking. Or maybe you don't. But the point is, you feel better and you start becoming, your focus starts to shift out of, I don't want to work out, into, oh my God, I need to work out because I feel so good about it. It does this and all that sort of stuff. It's the same thing with your insides and emotional management and emotional working out, right? It doesn't feel good in the beginning just because it's different, really. We get so used to wanting our lives to be comfortable. You know, Amazon, deliver me a good day.
Now 45% off.
It doesn't work like that. At least I don't think so. I have not, but you know what? I have not tried. I have not tried to buy a good day on Amazon.
Coupons available at the front of the store.
See if it's available. $29.99. But wait, there's more. Okay. So tools. Moving forward. Another little saying that used to annoy me, and it's just because there's a part of me that's so language specific and I get all wrapped up in speech. Moving forward. As opposed to standing still. I mean, that's the thing. You can stand still, but your life is still moving forward. So there's there's nothing else you can do but move forward. Right? You don't have to participate in fully absorbing the fact that it is actually still going while you're hanging out, thinking about whatever happened. But it doesn't change. Moving forward, you have to move forward. Yeah. I mean, you don't get a choice. You can either participate in the act of your life living, or you can hang out and think about what happened yesterday and see how that works. So you have no choice. You're always moving forward. How do I stop the aching? Good question. The first thing is to feel it, to be honest about the fact that you feel that way, and just deal with it. Just sit there and go, you know what? I'm really unhappy. I am pissed. I am brokenhearted, and I don't want to do it anymore. And you need to feel that. And at the same time, know that that voice and that feeling is not the only part of who you are. It's just what's happening in your biology right now, because there's a bunch of conversations going on about how you feel and what just happened and the wheres and the whys and the how am I going to move on, right? So how do you stop the aching? You can't. You want me to tell you the truth? Yeah, you can't. You have to breathe into it and ride the storm. Because if you don't, it just stays there. It doesn't go away because you choose not to turn around and say, oh, look, there it is. There's the aching. Well, I mean, it's still there. So you either face it and breathe into it and say, I'm really sad right now, and that's just the way I am, and speak it out loud, or you don't. But you can't. How do you stop the aching? You can't. You just gain distance. You gain perspective. You let yourself have time to feel for a while, and then you start changing your clothes and doing other things. And we'll get to those tools in a second. You have to be the mother and the broken part at the same time. And when I say mother, it's just whoever it is in your personality that takes care of business. Right? Like when you're doing business and when you're working, there's a certain part of your personality that takes the forefront because you're doing business, you're working, right? And say good morning, how are you, and all that good stuff. Because that's like 30% of the paycheck, right? People at Starbucks don't say good morning, how are you, because they want to necessarily. Some might. I'm not sure. I haven't taken a poll, but the point is, about 38% of their paycheck goes to that good morning because that's the profession of business, right? So you're going to think about yourself as a business, and you got to take care of business. You're driving this ship. Oh yeah, you are. Whether you want to believe that or not, you don't have to. You don't have to do anything, right? But I believe it's best to think that perhaps you are driving this ship and start just paying attention to the thoughts, to the things you say to yourself, to the way that you treat yourself. Also pay attention to the way that you're treating the world around you. Are you just carrying your suffering around on your sleeve and on your face and in your frown repeatedly, and just doling it out free of charge like the soup kitchen? Or are you being aware of the fact that the folks outside of your personal periphery are right here, right now, are there because it's a design to have you incorporate yourself into the world around you? If you believe you create everything, which I do, you also create out there. And when I say create out there, you create yourself, you create your own participation with what's happening out there. But I have noticed when I'm in a grumpy mood, or if I start my day in a funk and I go outside, that you're a magnet. That is just reflected to me. All of a sudden folks are grumpy or they're short-tempered, or and whether that's really happening or it's because that's what I'm bringing into my world of focus because I feel the same way and I want friends, misery loves company, or that my energy as an animal is sending a vibration to the other animals to beware. Be on your P's and Q's because I'm a-coming, right? So how do I stop the aching? You can't. You feel it and you love yourself. We're going to talk about that in tools. It's so important to love yourself. Damn it. And again, another coffee shop jargon, thing that folks say that's just true. It's really just about how you do that and what that means, right? You don't just slather the love yourself. Just love yourself. Be kind to yourself. That it's true, but you actually have to do that at a cellular level, right? I mean, again, you're a machine. Respect the machine. You don't have it very long. Figure it out so you can use it to the best of your abilities, and you can take it off the lot and drive it on the freeway and go someplace. Who knows where? Talking about, when I say feel it and love yourself, right? The mother of the pack. When I talk about having like a lot of parts of myself and personalities, all that sort of stuff, it doesn't mean that I'm a lunatic and I can't. It does mean I'm a lunatic. Let's be real. Look at me. What it means is that I've really kind of taken inventory of all the parts of me, like when I was a kid and how I was when I was a kid, and then I grew up a little bit and became a teenager, and all of a sudden had different ideas about stuff, and then I became, in my 20s, and we can go on. I mean, it's forever. I'm 53 something. I feel like I'm 1,000, but you get it. But all those parts of growth are definitive because they were very long times, and they're still a part of who I am, and they find their way to the forefront sometimes. If I'm really tired, a 16-year-old is going to come out right quick and read you the riot act. That's a big one, being tired. Oh, I got to sleep. Sleep's difficult. We'll talk about that another time. The mother of the pack. So I have to be all these folks at once and really respect each of those parts of myself because they've been really valuable, at all these different places. The time where I was just somebody you really just didn't want to meet in the street because I was a rage-filled, self-righteous, no excuses, bitch. And that's just being nice. Yeah, I was a piece of work. Not someone you'd want to run into. But that person saved my life, often, literally, because rage-filled, right? It worked then. And you try to carry that self through the next part, started not working because my environment and what I was doing in my life changed, hopefully. So it's about the tools that I want to talk about are really about navigating between the mother, because here's what's going on in here, right? I got a mother, which is this lady, old lady Jane. I've got a part of me that's brokenhearted relentlessly. She's like 5 years old, and she's sad and brokenhearted about everything. She doesn't kill bugs. anything and everything that's even mildly close to being mean devastates me to the point of tears. So there's that. There's the mother. There's the broken-hearted person, the little one that's just so soft and this big. Sensitivo. Muy sensitivo. Is it sensitivo? Is that Spanish for sensitive? We'll check that out. Then, as mentioned, the rage-filled, self-righteous, no excuses one. That was a big time in my life where I just didn't give a flying rat's ass about anything or any excuses. I knew everything, and I had the right. You didn't, because you didn't know as much as me. You hadn't lived as much as me. She still sits there, but she's way back there. Then I got the philosophical part of me that's read a lot of books, maybe too many. Is that possible? I don't know. But I've read a lot of books and investigated, the philosophical, the dig deep, the doctor that just wants to get it, wants to understand. I need to know everything. Tell me everything. How, why, where, what's going on. That part. Relentlessly curious and thinking about things in a scientific manner. So anatomy and biology, and integrating that with the rage-filled, self-righteous part. And then there's a no emotional clinical part of me that's just really fundamentally about information transfer, like a computer. And that part of me lives in the business aspect of me of just absorbing, harvesting information, analyzing it, and coming up with ideas about conclusions. And not just one conclusion, but multiple conclusions ad infinitum. So it's navigating between all those parts, and I'm going to talk about that when I talk about tools, right? Because they're all very useful. All those parts of me have been so useful and still remain useful if I can keep them in check. And yeah, they all need different stuff to be happy. All those different parts of me, all those different, parts of me need different things in order to be happy. For example, the clinical person, I need my environment to be organized. I just do. Otherwise, I go crazy. I think I mentioned this before, that if my outsides are messy, I know that's a red alert that my insides are messy. And sometimes I'm okay with just being messy, and I'm going to lay in bed for a day and eat snacks and watch things. Who cares? Who cares? You understand. And they all need different things, and I'm going to talk about those in the tools, because you have to feed yourself. Know yourself first in order to know who eats what, because some people are allergic. There's parts of me that are allergic to other parts of me. Allergic. Because there's one part of me that loves people. I love people. I love talking to people about everything. My friends, they say to me, stop zooming in, because I'll just go on forever. Zooming in, zooming out. And then there's another part of me that's, no, I don't want to be around people. I don't want to hear them. I don't want to see them. I just want to be by myself with a journal and a dog and a fire, thinking about Kafka. No, not really. But there's that person. So they're all battling. Aching. You can't stop it. You have to give yourself permission and surrender to opening the floodgates and being in pain and just observing it, taking notes, feel it and observe it. I started saying this a long time ago. I don't know if I made it up. Maybe I did, maybe I didn't. Who knows? Google it. You tell me. I would say to myself, observe, don't absorb. Or now I've gotten so good at it that I can do both. I can absorb and observe the absorption and the effects of said absorption. Sounds like a lot, but it really just, it ends up just being something that happens naturally. And it ends up being fun because, boy, do you learn a lot about yourself. And when you do that and you start putting these little things into action, it's extraordinary how the world responds and how energy responds and how people respond and just how you feel. That's the key. That's the key. Being sad all the time, moving forward, being sad all the time. Yeah. You got to be careful with that. Or just like I said earlier, hanging out in that place too long, right? Because it affects everyone around you. And especially, I don't have children. Again, I'm not a doctor. I'm just talking about things. But especially if you've lost, perhaps you've lost your spouse and you have children together. I've had friends that have suffered that. And then they're trying to be strong for their kids, right? So they don't talk about it. We don't talk about it anymore. And, we only smile about things and all that sort of stuff. Again, in my unpublished idiot opinion, I think that's dangerous because here's why. I've been a kid. Maybe you have too. But no matter what my parents said, I knew exactly how they felt all the time because kids are cool and not disrespectfully, but they're like dogs. They're in their animal primal place where they're just feeding off energy and vibration and the unspoken stuff. So they know exactly how you feel. Even if you're telling them otherwise, they know you're lying. And I know I would have preferred not to be lied to and just have conversations about it, right? And I'm also going to talk about honoring people in the tools section. But don't pretend, especially if there's kids involved. And adults. Try not to pretend as much as possible. I find it to be exhausting, and it just is useless. It just doesn't pan out. Payoff, action versus payoff. Those odds don't work out on the pie chart for me. Try not to pretend. If you have kids and you've lost a spouse and they've lost a parent, a father, a mother, whomever, talk about it. They might be able to airplane. Talk about it. They might be able to give you some insight because kids, boy, they're the coolest because they haven't been taught to lie, at least not well. And if you ask them to tell you how they feel about something or what they think about something, they tell you. So don't pretend because you wanting to be strong, being strong is standing in your life and dealing with your emotions. That's what being strong is, because that's tough. It's really tough. Pretending is kind of easy, at least it is for me. So don't do it, or do it, whatever. You know what I mean. So here we are at the tools part, which is the best part, really. Because I get to tell you some things that work for me. I've tried it all. I mean, how can you say that? How can you say you've tried it all? I don't even know what all is. I just know what I know. And I know nothing and everything all at the same time. Tools. Really, first thing I want to say is these tools are fundamentally based in coming to terms with the fact that you're a machine. Like I am a machine. To me, how I view myself, my insights and my processing, I'm a machine and I'm a computer as an analogy. I have a hard drive, I have an operating system, I have apps that I upload and download, I have a trash, I have files, I have folders, I have labels, I have all that stuff that kind of figures out how in here sorts out the info. When I ask myself a question, what information it's filing through to come to the conclusion. And I've learned over my life to trick the machine. And it's an amalgamation of reading and indulging in psychology and then investigating physiology and how the chemistry of my human machine works. And also going to therapists and being put on medication after this medication and that medication and sometimes it working and all that sort of stuff. But really understanding that I am motorcycle, that I am a chemical chemically fed operating system, right? The chemistry dictates behaviors, reactions, and the chemicals are born out of feelings because feelings are chemicals. Serotonin is what we call happy, and all the rest of it. So when I really embrace the fact that if I thought about myself as a machine, and as I mentioned previously, thinking about the business of being me, right? Let's talk about the business of you. The business of being me, how I process information, how I store information, where I store it, how I access it, how many steps I have to go through to get to these things. You know, I'm a high functioning human being, and I like organization, especially on my insides. So when you really absorb that you're a machine and you're a chemically based product, then you understand that you can manipulate that. It's not easy, takes practice, but it's true. It's science if you believe in that stuff. But if you retrain your body to feel certain feelings or exude certain chemicals like serotonin, then the machine responds. It's the rules. It doesn't have an opinion. It just filters through what biologically it does, right? So you gotta trick the machine. Let your biology help you. And like I said, these things take time. Sometimes some of these things have taken years for me to put into practice because I'll do them for a little while and then I'll be like, this isn't working. A bunch of gobbledygook, you know? And then I get back on track because I'm older and I realize, well, I haven't changed. Things are still going the same way. So I try it again. And I put a little bit more love into it. And inevitably, it works. And it becomes a practice. I keep using that word, but it's so true. And then when it becomes a practice, it becomes a habit, good and bad. I don't like those words. We'll talk about that another time. But it becomes a habit. It becomes an emotional habit. So it's just your reactions change because your emotional habits have changed because you've gotten in the kitchen and cooked up some sauce on the inside. So tricking the machine, right? Letting your biology help you and using the machine as a tool. Now, some of these tricks, are they tricks? Who knows? But they're definitely tools that I use all the time. And some of them will probably sound very simple. And they kind of are, except in the fact that you have to do them over and over again until it just becomes your habit. But they really are simple. And I found over my life that I think we as human beings try to complicate things and over dramatize things. I do because I'm a storyteller and I love stories. And so, I mean, any given moment, you know, the best and the worst is happening in my head. So using the machine as a tool and tricking yourself. What was I saying? All of a sudden I heard the beeping of a truck outside, and it distracted me. ADD. So back on track. Tricking the machine and using a machine as a tool because you are an emotional wizard. It's true. It is. It's like a magic trick. If you believe in manifestation, if you don't know about manifestation, look it up. It's pretty much, well, it's not pretty much, but it's thoughts become things. What you focus on the inside, if you truly believe and sell yourself any story, it becomes the truth. Yeah, so you are an emotional wizard. Most people don't realize how much power they have. I really don't. So many folks, and myself included, you know, why is this happened to me? You know, why is this happening to me all the time? How do I end up in this situation? Why are people being mean to me? Blah, 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 blah. It was me. It was me. It was me. Me, more about me. So they might sound simple, but let's get into some of these tricks. Yeah, some of these tricks may sound simple. Can't possibly work. They do, though. That's the crazy thing. The simplest things sometimes are the answers. We like to complicate things. We like to over-dramatize things. Be good to yourself. That's the first tool. Be good to yourself. And what does that mean? People say that all the time. Just be good to yourself. What does that mean, though? Well, it means specifically to you. If you're suffering through grief, depression, then Mother of the Pack steps in It's like understanding that you know, you're dealing with a kid that has the flu, a really bad flu, and they're sick. And they can't get up and change their clothes, and they don't want to take showers, and they're going to throw tantrums, and they're going to be upset. You know, perhaps it's a baby teething, but it's the same kind of thing. You know, look at yourself in that context. Like if you're standing there and you see yourself as sick, then take care of yourself. You can be sick and taking care of yourself at the same time. And you check in. That's the thing. You check in with the bub. You open the door and you peek in and you say, are they okay? They're okay. Check in on yourself. Check in on yourself. Don't expect the world to check in on you because it's not their responsibility. It's yours. And even if they did, they're not going to be able to have a conversation with you in the way that you need to have a conversation with yourself, which is honestly. But check in. That's a tool. That just should be in life, right? Check in with yourself all the time. Be good to yourself. Pay attention to the movement within. Recognize, be like, hey, lady, you just got really snippety for no reason. What's happening? Or you've been sad for 3 days. How long do you think we're going to be here for? Check in. Give yourself boundaries. Give yourself guidelines. Set goals. Which brings me to inchworm. Right? I have it written here. There's no magic potion. Emotional, physical habits. Be your own best medicine. Right? That brings me to inchworm. Inchworm is something that I just say to myself, and I'm now sharing with my friends in the world about how I get through times where I feel paralyzed. Depression does that to you. Comes and goes, but when it's here, it's setting up shop. And it owns everything for me. So inchworm comes in, right? That's setting micro goals, tiny little steps. Some people say take it day by day. That's too long. That's like a whole 24 hours. That's a long time to just kind of do. I can't do it like that. I can, but sometimes I can't. So then inchworm comes in. And I deal with things moment by moment. By moment, breath by breath. And I set micro goals. If I'm depressed, I give myself time periods. Like you can be here for an hour and a half and then you have to do something. It doesn't matter what it is. And then the inchworm kicks in with the micro physical stuff. So if you're stuck in bed and you're depressed and you just can't fathom the idea of getting up or doing anything, pull an inchworm move. Okay, you know, I have to do the dishes. The dishes have been sitting there for 3 days, or there's pile of clothes in this. That's okay. They can stay there. They can stay right there for now. All you need to focus on is an inchworm move, which is sit up. No, you don't have to get up and go and do the dishes. No, you don't have to get up and fold the clothes, even though you probably should. You can't right now. So what can you do? You can sit up. You can do one thing. So you just sit up. You take it from there. And once you've sat up, maybe you're sitting there and you're thinking, this is as much as I can deal with, because I just want to cry. So you cry, but you cry sitting up because mother of the pack's in the room, right? Good job. Just sit there. Next step is stand up, right? Micro goals, setting micro goals, and you force yourself to do those things. That's the part that's tough to get into, because you must force yourself to do it. Your physical body is held hostage by these feelings, so you're numb. You're on flatline area, or at least I am. I'm just humming on the inside and thinking about nothing and everything all at the same time. So I need to physically force myself to start getting that blood pumping, to move. You must move. And you have to force yourself to do that. These inchworm moves. Once you've set up, you stand up. Set yourself a goal. I'm going to change my clothes, right? That's another one. That's another trick. Is there anything else I want to say further about the inchworm? No, it's just really setting micro goals so you can just physically start moving. Once you get blood into your body, things happen because back to being a machine. It's the rules. Tricking yourself. You're not tricking yourself. You're just manipulating your chemistry to work on your behalf instead of just resigning yourself and being stuck in sadness and depression. So micro moves, sitting up, standing up. The next one, change your environment. I love this one. Changing your environment is everything. It is to me, and I do it often. I probably change my apartment around every 3 months. This isn't a suggestion because some might call that crazy, and some probably don't even have the time. But I do it for lots of different reasons. Changing my environment helps me have a new experience with my environment. So it's, again, tricking my chemistry and my biology and the machine that is my human self into being distracted. Your eyes are cameras. Your brain is absorbing and starving for information all the time. You as a computer is starving for information all the time. You want things to do. So give it things to do other than thinking about all the sad stuff. Change your environment. Switch your bed around. Put your bed facing in a different direction. Put your desk facing in a different direction. Put your trash can in a different place. Spin the room around. And don't freak out about it. People are like, what do you mean? Oh my gosh. Change everything. Everything. It's stuff. You can move it back. I do. Move it around though. Change your environment, because it's another way for you to force your body and your physiology into experiencing something new, which will immediately bring your focus into the here and now, because your machine is absorbing a new way of doing. So it's focused, it's hyper-focused, because it's learning something new. Even if it's just learning where the bed sits now, because you switched it around. That's what your body has to do, and that's what your brain has to do, and your eyes do. It's just what the machine does. It has to relearn the setup that you're in. And this forces you to be in the present, to be in the now. Even if it's only 2 minutes. It's 2 minutes more than what you had before. But it's actually longer than 2 minutes, because once you change everything around, everything changes. You wake up in a new environment. It's the same room, but the light is responding differently. Shadows are hitting the walls differently. Colors are different because the light coming in through the window is hitting, another piece of furniture in a different way. Change all the pictures. If you have pictures or paintings and things on the wall, switch them around, room to room, move the rooms around, because this is forcing yourself to not only have a physical relationship with something new, so that you're not living in the past of where you experienced the loss. You're not waking up again in the room the day after you lost somebody. Nothing looks the same. Switch it up, change it around, and do it everywhere. Do it often. It says read here. Do I have something that I want to read to you? Wait 1 second. Yeah, I'm just going to read this. Okay, so these are my notes. Welcome to my notes. Change your environment, moving furniture around. It's just stuff, and that stuff can help and hinder your emotional state subconsciously and consciously. Do you hear that motorcycle? Brooklyn, New York. Take a day or two and change everything. Move the couch, the coffee table, the books, the shelves, the position of your bed, your desk, your trash can, your everything. Face a different direction and move the furniture, the energy, the light, shadows, and color palette. This is a tool I use relentlessly, and I do, and it works every time. It's just the rules. It's different. So you wake up and you have a different experience than you did. You're not reminding yourself of, oh, we're here again. Because that would be a thing for me when I was in deep depression. I'd finally get to sleep if I could at all, but the times that I did, and the next day that I woke up, I mean, the first thing in my head would be, great, we're here again. This again. And it hurt. So I just started moving stuff around, and it works, and it's fun. It's good for you. Do it. Yeah. This tool gives your physical body, the machine, a new injection of feelings. You are being physical, for one. You're moving. You are creating new spaces for your eyes to learn and feed on. Your brain is activated by force to see and experience things because it's new. So you are distracted by force. You'll be thinking and feeling about the newness and see. Yeah. So you're distracted by force. You'll be thinking and feeling about the newness you see and not the chatter of yesterday. Sometimes I just say, you're so right, Not always. Others, different conversation. But you will be feeling better because your body is like a kid in a candy store and eating all the new colors. It's just physiology. The beauty of the things I do for me, it's like magic. I trick myself into a different way of thinking, feeling, and behaving. Let your biology help you. Let your biology help you. Be the boss of you, right? You are an emotional wizard. Start waving that wand. Do it. Next one, showers. This again sounds silly, doesn't it? Does it? Maybe it doesn't. But showers are everything. I'll take up to 6 showers a day, as many as it takes. It's another way for me to trick my body into resetting. I feel different because I'm in water and I have to get undressed and dressed again. I do shower naked. That's kind of one of the things I do. But it's a way to reset. It's like brushing your teeth. If you brush your teeth or take a shower, it's a reset. And it's a moment where I take a moment to just get back in touch with my body and feel the water and feel the temperature and feel my feet on the bathtub, right? Back to the here, back to the now. Showers, anything you can do for yourself that's a physical activation of your environment that's also a little bit of self-love, like taking a shower, do it. Another trick I do is drinking beverages in the shower, both hot and cold. Oh, it's fun. Have you ever had a hot beverage in the shower? I had a cup of tea in the shower the other night. Delicious. It's also great in summertime if you just have like a delicious icy something. Anyway, I digress. So showers, as many as possible. Change your clothes. Even if you can't take a shower, change your clothes. Again, it's a physical response. If you're wearing a pair of shorts and you're wearing a pair of jeans, your body has a different feeling about it. And you will act accordingly. Try not to stay in the same clothes for a week. I've done it. I still do sometimes. Be nice to yourself. Change your clothes. Physical participation. Force yourself. Be the boss of you. It's for your own good. And it works. Get on it. Music. Dance. I have dance breaks all the time because I'm a physical spaz. And I get really uncomfortable if I'm sitting too long in the same place. So my brain gets itchy. Like the kid steps in and it's like, are we doing anything fun today? Or are we just hanging out here with the computer? So dance. Put a song on and just move. Even if it's a sad song and you need to cry. All these tools, cry in between them. Cry it out. Yeah, cry it out. Do whatever you need. Just get it out and move. Move your body. And dance. Music. If the person you've lost had a favorite song, play it. Let's dance it out together. Little things. Inchworm. Inchworm. Music. Eat. Tiny snacks. You don't have to sit down and eat a whole meal, but you must be the mother of the pack and eat a banana every now and then. You know, have some cheese, unless you're lactose intolerant. Then eat whatever you need to eat, but have a snack. Feed yourself. Again, checking in on the sick bub in the room that needs some chicken soup every now and then. Micro goals. If you have a sandwich, you can only have if just as long as you eat something, right? Be the mother of the pack. Love yourself. Write. Oh, writing. You don't have to be a writer to write, because writing is an insane tool. It's so helpful for me. It's helped me my entire life. My entire life. I've written my entire life. Just about how I feel and what I think, because I didn't have very many folks to talk to. Plus, I thought, oh boy, if I tell anybody this, they may put me in a straitjacket. Still might. But writing, right? You don't have to be a writer. Nobody's reading it. Nobody's reading it. Sometimes I have to remind myself that, you know, this isn't going to be broadcast for millions, and I'm not standing in a pulpit wearing a petticoat. Nobody's reading it. It's for me to see on the outside what's spinning on the inside. When I write, especially stream of consciousness, which just means I'm just writing what I'm thinking, you know, just going, just talking to the page. And then I reread it. Sometimes the clarity you get from reading just your thoughts without thinking it through and saying, oh, if when I die, somebody finds my journals and everybody sits around a table smoking cigars with candles and reading to each other. That's not going to happen. I don't think so. Maybe it will. You never know. They're very interesting. But the point is, you're not writing for anybody to read. You're writing so that you can get clarity of what's happening behind the noggin, behind the eyeballs, so you can see it in real time. And when you read it aloud, not only sometimes do you get this understanding that you're on the wrong side of making sense, but other times for me it's just been really cathartic, and I can just yell or scream and say stuff, and once it's out and I can see that I've gotten it out, then it gets further in the layers, it goes back in the Rolodex. So write. Another thing that's been very helpful in writing, letters. Sounds cheesy, does it? I like cheesy though. When Harry Met Sally. Cheesy's cool. And I love all kinds of cheese, but I have gotten off track. Writing letters to yourself and to those that you have feelings about. Boy, I've written I don't know how many bazillions of letters and emails that I've never sent, because it's really not for anyone to listen to. It's just for me to get out how I feel, so it can be out of me and not in here, right? You only have a certain amount of storage up there, and then it just starts getting messy. So writing letters, if you've lost somebody and there's something that you feel like you didn't get to say, just write a letter. It's another subconscious little trick that you can just do, because you just really, as a human, need to work through stuff and understand things and get perspective and know why you're thinking and feeling the things that you're thinking and feeling. And once you understand that, they change place in the layer of what's important and what's taking ownership of how you behave. Right. Writing is good. Go outside. Go outside. Just go outside. You don't have to go anywhere. Again, it's not about making plans, micro plans. At least it hasn't been for me. Making plans, no, they just don't work for me. Sometimes, but not in this context. I'm just going outside. You're just going outside. Make a micro suggestion. I'm going to walk around the block. Maybe you need to go get groceries. Maybe you need to go pick this or that up. You're not doing that right now. You're doing what you can do. You control what you can control. What you're doing is you're just going outside and you're going around the block. You're just going to go for a walk around the block. And if you can't go around the block, you just can't do it. then just open the front door. Just get up and get to the front door. Because what you end up finding sometimes is once you've gotten to the front door, you just make it, baby steps. Once you get to the front door, you realize, okay, that actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. So let's go around the block. Go outside. Talk to people. Say hello. The world needs you. Yeah, the world really needs you. Go outside. Listen to the world. Get your body moving. Get your body moving. And listen to the world. Just be there, right? The quickest way for me to get back out of my head, shut down the noise, is take a deep breath and listen. When people talk about meditation, it's not just being, hey man, I'm chill. No, it's not that. I mean, it can be. It's whatever you want. But really, meditation is the act of listening. Like with everything. Like I can hear the people down the street. That's meditation because you're like a pooch. You're in the here and the now, right now. And that's where everything happens. It's the only place anything happens. So go outside. You don't have to smile at everybody. You don't have to say, good morning, how are you? Although, try. But just go outside and know that, yeah, the world needs you. I need you. I need you to be in the world with me, even if you're hurting. Sometimes even more so I can say, oh, not the only one. Thank you. All right, next thing I'm going to start talking about breathing, but I'm going to get some coffee. We're back. Coffeeed up. I love coffee. It doesn't really do anything for me. I just like the taste of it. It's delicious. Breathing. Breathing. Breathe in and ride the storm. This little thing right here is so that I can cover the video so I don't see my face. Because it's weird to look at my face as me. Because you're like, do you ever think about that? Like, I don't look in the mirror a lot, but every now and then I force myself to just look in the mirror and say hi. There you are in the mirror. But it's really strange because I look at myself when I started videoing for the show. I would look at myself and I just was like, who is that? Who is that person? So I don't want to look at her. I don't want to look at myself. I do, but I don't. Not breathing. Breathe in and ride the storm. Does it sound like tough medicine? Does it sound like, what do they call that? Boot camp? Like emotional boot camp? Like saddle up, soldier, buckle up. You're in for a ride. It kind of is. It is. But it's more just about going back to surrender, going back to understanding and embracing your person, your human being ship that you're riding in, and saying, this is where we're at. And taking a deep breath and riding the storm. Right? Breath, it saves my life. You'll see me do it every now and then because my head's going 1 billion miles a minute and my body is frantic sometimes to keep up. And I can't. And I shan't. Because it's just a lot all the time. So I'm going to slow myself down. Breathing is everything. Breathing has saved my life. Literally. I mean, of course, literally. Let's not breathe for a minute and see how long that lasts. Not very long. So breathing. Breathing is everything. In moments of frenzy, in moments where in moments where I'm outside and all of a sudden I'm surrounded by a bunch of people and I feel this desperate need to talk to everybody, and I know that's just insanity, so I need to calm myself down and just get back into my skin, back into the bones. feel my feet on the ground. And I use breath to do that on purpose, right? Breathing on purpose. Because it'll just get away from you. You'll find yourself shallow breathing when you're depressed because you're just numb. You've like shut down. You're so like floppy that you're not even coming back into your bones, tricking yourself. When you take a deep breath, even if you do it right now and you sit up straight and you take a really deep breath, your skin starts to tingle. And it's nice. So breathing. That's the first easy, simple tool. Consciously breathing. If you're starting to feel yourself, right, from the 1 to 10, like, oh, I'm at about a 2 here in panic or sadness, you take a deep breath and you just listen to what's happening around you instead of thinking. Look at stuff. Listen. Get back to your breath. Honoring life. That's both for you here and now and honoring your life in the present moment because it's all you got. And time is the only currency worth spending, so spend wisely. But also honoring the life that and the personality that you now have lost, or they've moved on, right? So honoring that life, honoring them in the here and now, trying not to remain in their last moments. Try to put that on the back burner. You're allowed to revisit things too. That's the great thing about putting things on the back burner. Prioritizing emotions. Do I need to be thinking about this right now? Is it benefiting me right now? Is it something I need to go through in order to fully absorb and feel this situation so I can move through it? Or am I just hanging out there because, for whatever reason? So honoring the here and the now, right? The right here and the right now. And also designate a space for that lost person. I have written here, protect your heart from being reminded of pain. Stop thinking for a while. Like stop reminding yourself of the pain. Be good to yourself. Be kind to yourself. Goes back to changing your environment. Set a designated area for this person. If this is a person that you lived within the home, so every time you turn around, there's a photo of them or something that reminds you of having a moment with them, right? Back to changing your environment. This is the bedroom, we made our children in, or this is the space that we cooked our first dinner in, or any of those kinds of things. Honor their life and your space and your sanity and your insides, and let yourself hurt in a way that's not bludgeoning yourself to death with it every waking second. So designate a space. If there's photos of these people, this person around even your pets or whatever you're mourning, make a space for them. Choose a wall to have a memory wall of the good things, the nice things, the smiling faces, the things that bring you joy about that person. You don't have to clear them out of the house. You don't have to lock them up and burn their clothes and what have you, but try to designate a space. Make a space that's specifically in memory of them and the things that were most important. You don't have to hold on to every single thing, their last pair of pants, or you can do whatever you'd like. There's repercussions to everything. I have found that designating a space or honoring that person in a way that's not only respectful of them and your experience with them and having the best of the moments out for you to see and remind yourself of the good stuff, but it's also giving me permission to heal in a kind, gentle way. And you're not caught off guard. And there's times, more so in relationships, I would say, where you get to a point you've been grieving for months. You've been grieving for a long time. You've been in pain, and you're kind of working through that. And you're starting to have a day or two where you forget. You don't forget, but where you don't think about it, where it's not at the forefront of every waking second and thought. You're not every breath you take thinking about it, and you kind of are moving through stuff. And then all of a sudden you'll pick up your phone and you'll scroll through it, and there will be an old text message from them. And then you'll spend the next 4 hours reading text messages and going to your email and pulling up old emails, and then going to your photos album and scrolling through photos and hours of photos and crying and feeling all these feelings. That's just torture. That's, to me, not helpful. And it goes back to also not being very respectful of their memory or your life and your peace of mind, and caring about yourself so that you're a productive and person in the world. So you're not another sad person out there. Honor people's lives and memories and your own space. Protect your heart from being reminded of pain. Put photos in a specific place. Change up your environment so you're not reminded of all the things that you now feel you've lost. And you don't ever lose them. They're right there in your memories. Just go through the Rolodex. Ding, 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 ding. August 14th, 1978. There it is. It's right there. It's all right there. You don't ever lose somebody because you become happy either, right? Remind yourself of that. And also, get a hard drive. I just did this. Get a hard drive and just get all of your photos. Just clean out your phone. Clean them all out. Put them on a hard drive. Put all the videos on a hard drive. All the photos on a hard drive. Make that folder. Label that folder. Whatever you want to label it. And then file it appropriately. It's still there. You don't lose it because you've organized it and you've decided, you know what, I'm just going to put this behind a few other things for a little bit. You can always pull them back out and look at them. Empty the photos and file accordingly. It's key. Celebrate their life. Have a party. Right? Does that sound insane? It doesn't matter. A lot of things sound insane to a lot of different people. Have a party. Celebrate the good times. Celebrate how much they taught you, how influential they were. Have it so everybody can share their best stories and their greatest memories and their funniest memories, right? Celebrate. Say see on the upswing in a way that's joyful and happy. So you can feel like you gave them a send-off in a way that doesn't reflect pain. You can remember the dinner party and stories from other folks about how this person affected them and their funniest moments. You can absorb them as a whole human being again and not just live in the tragedy and sometimes the paralyzing pain of the loss. If there was no fun, if we're going back to somebody again that you're confused with your emotions about and there wasn't a lot of fun in your relationship, but you've still lost them, you can still have a dinner party. And just revisit them as a whole human being. Think about them as a human, as a person. Try to just say adios without feeling the pain of the struggle of grief. Right? And also, talk about what was beneficial about your relationship with them. Even if they were somebody that was difficult, there's always something beneficial that you either learned about yourself or that you learned about humans in general, that you can garner. And if you can't, you're not looking hard enough. You're not digging deep enough, because there's usually something, even if it's not something that you like about them, it's something that you learned from them or you found interesting about them, or something that their behavior taught you how not to be. Right? Some of the best parts of myself have come from what one might call monsters, right? And this brings us to our next and final little ditty. Things to remember. Okay, things to remember. I mean, I haven't looked at all this stuff. Cars. But I feel like I've been talking forever. Are you still hanging tough with me? Things to remember. Boom. You are a machine. Absorb that. Just live with that identity and only that. I am a machine. I am a computer. How are things looking on that hard drive? How's our operating system? Do we need to do some updates? Absorb that. You are a machine. The business of self. Things to remember. You're a computer. Learn your operating system, and they're all different. And as mentioned, mine, sometimes the old operating system is out the window. Sometimes I have to get a whole new computer because it's just not working anymore, and it's really slow. It's not keeping up with me, so I have to ditch it and get a new buddy. But learn your operating system. Learn how you process stuff so you're not just blindly running around the world acting and reacting and selling yourself this idea that, oh, no, they got what they asked for. They got what they, have this relentless conversation with yourself and learn your operating system. Learn how you process and how your process affects other people's process, and what you get from the world in return of that process. And if that process ain't paying up, you need to switch it out. I think. Next thing to remember, be the observer and take honest notes. If you lie to yourself, you cannot and will not be happy. And you are choosing rocky terrain, wearing only ice skates and a bandana. It's true. If you lie to yourself, well, that's that. You can't go anywhere from that. And the funny thing is, you actually can't lie to yourself because there's always that underlying layer, the one in the very back that's like, woo! Now we know that's not true, right? Even if you don't admit it out loud, you know it's there and you have to live with it and forget that. That's annoying as all get out. I'm not interested in that. Don't lie to yourself. The older you get, that's one of those things they say, oh, if I only knew this when I was a kid. It's true. Just don't lie to yourself. Be brutally honest with yourself. It's the only way to get through it. It's the only way to make decisions that are actually coming from a place of understanding. I mean, think it through, right? Only wearing ice skates and a bandana. It's true. I mean, you're entering a game where you don't even know the rules. How do you win that? It's tough. Another thing to remember, feelings always change. It's the rules. So give yourself permission to feel so you can grow and not wilt. Feelings always change. They always change. Sometimes it takes a long time, but I can remember back just knowing in times where I've had things happen in my life that have felt like that's it. I'm broken. There's no coming back from this one. And that was real for me. In those, like that was gospel. Like, yeah, that's it. I'm done. I am done. I am done. I'm out. I can't get through this one. And then here I am with you. You do. Sometimes it takes a long time, depending on your participation in that process. How much you really want to knuckle down and have a conversation and work it out. But it does. It always changes. It's the rules. It's the rules. It's like the weather. It comes and it goes. And sometimes it's stormy. Sometimes it's freezing. And sometimes it's beyond hot. But it comes and goes. There's seasons. It's just the way it works. Remind yourself that you are here now and that time is the most valuable currency you will ever spend. Time is the most valuable currency you will ever spend. Spend wisely. Yeah. Grief, although it stays a while, longer than any other feelings, it's just another feeling. I mean, once more, that might sound like a little rough talk, right? Like, how dare you say it's just a feeling? It is. It's just a feeling. It's whatever you affiliate with that feeling. It's whatever you've decided. The feeling has as much power as you allow it. And usually that power comes from how much of an inventory you've done on that situation. How much looking on the inside. Yeah. And although that does stay a little while, it's just like any other emotion. And it leaves you. Well, it doesn't leave you. It just, you get distance from it. And you are guaranteed of that. Guaranteed. If you hang out long enough, it changes. It just does. Sometimes it feels like it's going to be forever. Guess it depends on what your ideas of forever is, right? But it doesn't. It's impossible. Ride the storm. You could do this. Dive in. Swim. Head to dry land. Don't hide yourself from the world because it eventually comes. It does. Don't hide yourself from the world because the world needs you to be a human being because the world is starving for human beings. Like up. Out of the phones. Remember, time is what you are mourning, not the person. Call everyone you know all the time. Get outside of your head all the time. Speak to people in the streets and share yourself and how you're feeling so that other people can know they're not alone. The world needs you. It doesn't matter how important you think. Like, nobody cares about me. You know what? No, the world needs you. The world needs somebody to get up out of their phone and make eye contact and say, I see you, and it's going to be all right. Yeah, the world needs you. I need you. I need you to look up. Because, firstly, I just want to say hi and see what's going on. And where did you get that sweater? But I need you. I need you to feed my imagination. I need you to feed the understanding and the knowing in my bones that I'm not the only person awake in the world, or paying, with their heads up. I need that, and you'd be surprised at how powerful you are. It's extraordinary the difference that you make in the world just by saying hello to somebody or giving somebody a compliment, and what you gain in return by that. I have a rule that when I'm out and about, even though it scares me sometimes, is if somebody makes eye contact with me, no matter who it is, I say something. I give them a compliment. I say, hey, how are you? Have a great day, whatever it is. But I say something to them. And to see these people's faces when you compliment them, and, I try not to lie even. I try to actually figure out, oh, is there anything about this person I think is wonderful? And to see their little faces light up, to say, oh my gosh, look who's pretty in pink, wandering down the street. People are blown away that somebody else is looking at them or that they can be seen. And we need to remind each other that we can see you. So people, act accordingly. Yeah, the world needs you. Remember your humanhood outside of Instagram. You know what that means. You too will be mourned when your time comes. All you are is a story. Yeah, I think about that a lot. All you are is a story. So what's the story? What's the story? Have you heard that saying, how did you live your dash? It means on your tombstone, there's your birth date and your death date. And in between those two things is just a dash. Blip. How did you live your dash? Curious. Curious, curious, Just curious. And also try to remember that death helps us understand how important life is, and to remind us to harvest time and moments and to be in the present, pay attention, because it comes and goes really, really quickly. And it's a bummer sometimes, a big one. Yeah. Pay attention. So I think that's the end of my notes. Have we been here for a week? How long does it feel? Who knows? I guess we're about to find out. But in closing, I want to really say that, loss and grief is like no other pain that you'll ever feel. But you are guaranteed to feel it. And the longer you live, the more loss you will experience. You can't control that. But losing yourself is something you can control, or at least try, and get into the business of doing so. And for those suffering with loss right now, my heart is with you, because I've experienced a great deal of loss in my life, and I have a very close affiliation to being empathetic to others going through that same experience. But I do know that in my experience, you can and will move through this and everything else you experience in your life until your time comes. So really wrap your arms around that, right? Love yourself. Give yourself permission to be a human in the world with other humans. Investigate. Live in the here and the now. Because it's all you.